Good morning, everyone. Treasure Troller here, and we are here to recap Alone, Season 11, Episode 4, Legacy. I still don't quite understand why they call it Legacy, but Legacy nonetheless. Back down here at the River Park, a little bit of a different view. We were like over there this last time. And now we're just around the bend. Looking for beaver, yeah. We're going to look for that beaver coming up. So, I got a chance to watch this one twice. I also, just for you guys, I listened to the Alone official podcast. Now, I'm not going to say it was too difficult because, my girl Callie is a co-host on it. So, Callie can do no wrong in my book. So we'll just go through some of the stuff. A couple of the things that I got actually came off the podcast in relation to Dusty. So we'll just start out with Dusty. As soon as he burped, I knew it was over. That first burp, he was done. Seen it too many times. I know that he was, after looking over the Facebook Alone page or the fan page, and from the podcast, Dusty was one of the favorites. I don't know, he wasn't one of my favorites, but he sounded like one of the guys that broke out of jail with George Clooney and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Do not seek the treasure. He kind of talked like one of those guys. I did like his, a couple of things that he did. I liked the fact that he was building a smoker before he actually needed a smoker. I never liked these guys catching 2 or 3 fish and then now it's time to build a smoker. I also, that bench that he had, that was pretty exact with some of his stuff. That was pretty exact. He did a really good job on that. I don't know what to say. He says, I don't need the money. I've lived without it for 35 years. It just gets back to this, winning orphan factor thing. I don't know what to really make of these people. I've been watching I've been watching the first season of Alone Australia. And I was going to kind of do a whole season recap on that show. And there seems to be a lot stronger. It's sort of like, I get the feeling that they're pretty content with what they have at home. And so now they're just going to go off on this month-long trip into the woods. And they seem to lose sight of, to me, why they're there. And that is to win the money. Sarah, who would have thought that animals could get to your buried bait? Who would have thought? It kind of runs through this whole thing. Getting a little bit concerned with her because she reminds me of that, a little bit of that woman, I can't think of her name, was maybe back in season 3, the vegetarian, the one that caught one fish too many and decided to let the fish go. She was fine and dandy until the snow hit and then all of her grubs died. And then, she decided she needed to go home. So I'm a little bit worried about that. she does, has the fishing lodge, and so she has caught a fish, so maybe things will pick up for her. I think she had a pretty uneventful, this went from day 8 to 14, so she had a pretty uneventful week. Jake. The one thing I'll say about Jake always, he's got a voice for documentaries, audiobooks. I think you can give up your career doing carpentry work, get into voiceover stuff, and I think he'll be really successful. But this guy cannot get out of his own way. Loses his fishing line going into his camp after he dropped off. And I mean, who would have thought that grass didn't make good pot holders? Who would have thought that the heat would go right through them and burn your hand? I don't know what to say. The other thing too is what I learned from the podcast is that they are given that first aid kit, but the first aid kit is not replenished. So when he's done wrapping his hands like he's going to put boxing gloves on, when that gauze runs out, he's done. He has no more. So I don't know what he's going to do, but I mean, this guy just can't seem to get out of his own way. And then we have Timba. Now, what I like about him, and I've said it in the past, is that I wish they would just like go to a blind and just sit in the blind and not try to do all this stalking. It doesn't take as much energy, and so that's kind of what he was doing. And starting to make the gill net. He did get a fish. So I kind of like the way he's doing things. He also seems to be making a decent gill net. So I like that he's doing the standing thing. As far as the moose goes, a couple things with the moose. And this gets to something that was talked about in the podcast as well. That's an awful lot of meat. And you're going to spend a majority of your time trying to fight off varmint, getting to it. And what Dusty was saying was that he had gotten a squirrel and he was going to like eat it the next day. So he stored it in one of his pockets. And when he went to get it the very next day to cook it, it not only had flies, but it had larvae on it. So the flies are a much bigger issue than they've been made out to be. So I'm not sure how much of that meat you're actually going to be able to eat. And of course, there is actually hitting the animal and tracking it, which could take hours. And then you have to take it back to your camp. I'm not sure. But the flies seem to be a bigger issue. And then, of course, we get to William, who, once again, who would have thought that varmint could get at your food? So I'm thinking about it spoiling, and like within a day, the varmint got to it. But to give William full credit, the grouse wrangling, I've really tried to go over and think of all these seasons about what might be, I guess, a game-changing type tool. Possibly. I mean, what is it? Jake's no ferro rod was pretty interesting, but the grouse wrangling is kind of next level. No one's done it. No one's attempted it. I think it adds a little bit to the show. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more people trying to do it. That was about the only things. I think William, he lost the food, which was kind of big. I don't know how long he had that stuff stored, if it was like a night or two, but he had it stored in different spots. It still was completely gone. I like this shelter, how small it is. He's kind of like using it to sleep, and that's about it. He's got the chimney going outside the hut, which would be nice because all that that pine is just going to turn into tinder before too long. So I kind of like his setup. I like what he's doing. He's still, to me, kind of the dark horse. We didn't get to see Dub. No Dub this week, which was a shame. Dub, of course, is my favorite to win. Orphan factor of about 1, which kind of brings me to a comment that was on one of the vlogs. I don't have his, was it Pete? I got notes, but I don't have, yeah, Pete. He had said I put an orphan factor of 7 on him, which I think was a pretty decent score. I'm not sure what they meant by that, because, like I said, orphan factor score goes 0 being like total orphan to 10, which is tap out because you think it's raining at home and your kids are crying. I thought it was a pretty legitimate score. He had a wife and kids, or a wife and son at home. So I thought it was a pretty good score. I'm not sure if they were complaining about it or not. We've gone a little bit back and forth with Kevin Hart. I believe it's Kevin Hart, with the shovel head / saw teeth on it. And it's almost getting back to about like the first episode of the season. I don't really have any objections to it. It's like if they'll let you take it, they let you take it. It's no big deal. My thing is, I'm wondering, it's more about the spirit of the competition. And I felt the same way about the bow quiver and waxing up the bottom so you could use it to store water. I'm just wondering about, when I see these kind of things, I think about the spirit of the game. I mean, it's sort of like they let you take a Swiss Army knife and there's about 10 different things on it. If you want to modify one of those or 2 of those items, I guess I don't care. They're already letting you take 10 items. There's 10 things on that Army knife. If you want to modify 1 or 2, I don't care, because it's still, to me, it's still the same thing. I'm just wondering about, it's more or less the spirit of the game. And that's what, when I see these modifications being made, that's what I'm thinking about. Not that I'm objecting to it, but that was about it. Let me think. Was there another comment on there? Had the shovel. Oh, and I did add that Facebook comment during Williams. So Dub kind of had it, in a sense, right. I guess he was on the right path. The only safe food is the food that you've eaten. We'll see how that goes. So I guess maybe watch out for flies upcoming. So no Dub, and what was her other name? Was it Michaela? I don't remember. So Dusty's gone. We got Sarah, Jake, Timba, Dub, Michaela, William. So far, it's been an okay season. So I'm going to do a complete season 1 recap of Australia. There's no sense in doing orphan factors and stuff on them. And I think they've got 2 episodes from season 2. But they don't run like consecutive weeks. It seems like they go, they take some time in between their episodes. So we'll see how that goes. And I think there was one on Discovery, kind of like one of those Naked and Afraid. I think they did with one of Alone. So maybe we'll do some recap on that. So, I mean, the title of this one at first was going to be, who would have thought, who would have thought your bait would get stolen, varmint would get into your food stash. I mean, pretty incredible, unbelievable, anything like that would happen. But hey, it had to be grouse wrangling. I'm pretty sure, Mr. Hart, Mr. Kevin Hart's going to have something to the contrary to this, but I think it was pretty innovative. I think it adds a hunting, another, I don't know if you want to call it a set, or another opportunity to hunt rather than using the bow for the small game. Definitely saves on your arrows. And we'll just have to see how it goes. But I think it was pretty innovative. Oh yeah, there's 6 over there, and he just goes and plucks 2. Just like that, let's go home. I just wish he would have ate one. So that is episode 4. Season's going okay so far. Like it better than last season. It's going okay. So this is Treasure Troller saying aloha and good day.